We want to align ourselves perfectly with Imam Hussein and perfectly against everything else. It's not good enough simply to affirm in Islam and say, I believe in Allah, I love the Ahlul Bayt, I believe in that. It's not good enough simply to assert that. Part and parcel of asserting that is rejecting all else. And it's equally important to reject all else as it is to assert what you know and what you believe in. In a pluralistic society, we kind of shun denouncing falsehood. We say, just say what you believe. Say the positive part of it and leave out the negative part. Because as soon as you start saying negative things and denouncing the wrong, you're going to start stepping on people's feet. Generally, when you assert a belief and say, I believe this, it's a personal issue. So, okay, fine, you believe this, I believe something else, and we can both live happily together. But as soon as you start to denounce something else and say, no, that's wrong, that's false, that's evil, then you start stepping on people's feet. You end up with conflict. A conflict of thought, conflict of belief, and it can translate into conflict of action as well. And that's why it becomes very difficult for many of us to understand and accept, especially younger people. Older people might either have already understood this or might just take it for granted or whatever else. But generally I've gone through the same struggle myself. This la'an, curse is not necessarily a great translation for la'an, but it's the best I've been able to come up with. La'an literally means, it's the opposite of asking for mercy for somebody. Right, we pray, so we say, Allahumma arhamhuma, have mercy on our parents. Right? The opposite of that, to ask Allah, to beg Allah, to make a dua to Allah, to strip His mercy of somebody is called la'an. Okay? So it's a dua, a curse, a la'an is a dua. And just as we have good du'as, we also have very vengeful du'as. And that's perfectly fine, as long as they're pointed in the right direction. Right? Dua kumail, for instance, we have Allahumma وَمَنْ أَرَادَنِي بِسُوءٍ فَأَرِدْ وَمَنْ كَادَنِي فَكِدْ. Anyone who intends evil for me, get him. Turn that evil around on him. Anyone who wants to play tricks on me, turn those tricks around on him. The dua that we're going to recite tomorrow, inshallah, after Ziyar Ashura is dua al-Alqama. Right? That dua it's full of this sort of thing. There's one phrase in there, it's like, anybody who has any sort of bad intentions for me, then strike him down with all sorts of afflictions and just wipe him out. It's really, really harsh. And it's a dua. It's a dua from the Ahlul Bayt. That's something that they want us to say. They've encouraged us to say it. Okay, so the main philosophy behind this is this tawalli, the tabarri part, to make sure that we are completely aligned against falsehood, and that in our hearts we hate it. We hate falsehood. It's great to hate for the sake of Allah. There are hadith that say, for instance, iman, faith is nothing more than love and hate. It's composed of a series of loves and hates. What's important is that our love and hate be rational, be based on what's true and false, and not simply on false pretenses. That I personally don't like this person, so I'm going to curse him. That's not a standard. Right? If the person's evil, he's wrong, he's against the logical standards, right? And he's intentionally, right, disbelieving, intentionally working and living against the truth, then absolutely, what's wrong with cursing that person? Allah Himself curses people in the Quran. The angels. It's a thing that Allah Himself does. Why not join with Him and curse the right people? Now we can't turn that around on any person that we don't like. Like I just said, we can't just say, especially if it's a Shia, we can't. If someone rubs us the wrong way, we can't turn around and say, "May Allah curse you." And it's haram to say that. Even other individuals. Right? Unless we have solid evidence that this person is worthy of the curse, then we have no right to go and curse them. So we definitely shouldn't turn this around on Sunni brothers, for instance, Sunni brothers and sisters, and say, let's curse all the Sunni brothers and sisters. Absolutely not. We're not allowed to. It's haram. What we are allowed to do is those people who are either we know or we're told by Allah or the Prophet or the Imams that they are worthy of curses, like in Ziyad Ashura. This is a hadith. Right? The Imams themselves have told us that these particular people are worthy of cursing. Right? So there we can definitely do it. We should do it, and it's an ibadah. Right? We always think of ibadah as being soft and fluffy and very warm and nice. It's not always the case. Praying la'an is also a kind of dua. It's a kind of ibadah. Okay. Let me stop there and see if there are questions. I'll address the questions, and then inshallah we can move on to the story of Karbala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
I'd like to ask about cursing, and I have two questions, if you don't mind. You said Imam Hussein alayhi salam asked Yashua and commanded that we curse these people. And at the same time, it's commonly known that Imam Hussein felt sorry for these people, and so much so he cried. What's the contradiction here?
Okay.
And then the second part of my question.
Let me address this. I'll forget the
It's
first.
related, yeah.
Let me answer this now. I'll come back. So the first question is this: that how can Imam Hussein endorse cursing, for instance, the Kufans, right, the people he was fighting against, when he himself was so empathetic towards them, compassionate towards them, that he would invite them and call them, and he wished from the bottom of his heart that they would become his followers and stop fighting against the Pope. Right, so that there is no contradiction between the two. There's one comes first and one comes second. It's absolutely right that the wish, from the bottom of the heart, the wish of the prophets and imams was that all people would believe. And no one wants that more than Allah Himself, that all people should believe. Because of that passion that they have, that desire that they have that all people should believe, they do everything they can. They're not like us. Like, we might have a grudge against someone. Like, can you imagine? Like, we have Iraqi brothers here. Like, I'm sure they probably have a personal hatred for Saddam because of actual things that they've seen in their own family, people they've lost in their own families because of him. And if they haven't, like, all of us can empathize with that, and hopefully we've thought about it and realized what Saddam did to an extent that we can feel this hatred ourselves too. But think about them. Now, can you imagine? Like, I personally wouldn't expect my Iraqi brothers and sisters to have this compassion for a person like Saddam and wish that he would have repented and become a proper believer and really made, like, from the bottom of his heart, realize that what he did was wrong. It's hard to imagine that any of us, any human being who had felt that sort of pain would be able to turn around and have that sort of compassion for him and wish that he would become a Muslim, a proper Muslim. Right? That's us because of our weaknesses and the power of our emotions over our intellect. But the prophets and the imams, through their seerah and sunnah, they showed that they did have this sort of compassion. Like, from the bottom of his heart, Moses would have wanted nothing better than for Pharaoh to submit, to realize that yes, you are the prophet of God. I'm not Rabbukum al-A'la, and my magic is totally useless. He would have loved for nothing more than that. He didn't want Pharaoh to continue on his path. The same way with our prophet, with Abu Lahab, for instance, or with Abu Sufyan, or Imam Hussein with Yazid and these people at Kufa. It's true they wanted these people to believe. But at the same time, when the enemy of Allah makes a decision himself, seals his own heart, and decides that, no, I'm not going to listen to anything. Right? At that point, they're basically a closed door, and nothing else can penetrate them. When they make that decision to seal their own hearts, then Allah nails it shut. Right? They make the first step, and once they've decided that they don't want to hear anything else, they don't want to change, they don't want to become better, at that point their fate is sealed. Allah kind of adds to their own blindness, and that ends up kind of dooming them to punishment. At that point, when the door is shut, Allah hates this person now. The Imam also hates this person, and he'll curse that person, he'll kill that person. Right? Not before that happens though. Until it's clear to the person he's fighting that he is on the right path and he's on the wrong path, the Imam won't commence fighting. And this is why we see the Imam and all his companions constantly going out to the Kufans and explaining to them in every way they know how, that you know who I am, you know who my father was, you know whose imama I'm wearing, you know whose sword I'm holding. Like, in any way that possible, they're trying to get through to them. Right? This process is called Itmam al-Hujjah. Itmam al-Hujjah means kind of sealing the case against this person. The Prophet's duty, it's actually all of our duty, the Prophet's duty is to make sure that these people understand the truth beyond a shadow of a doubt. Then if they accept it, so that's great, and if they don't, so be it, and they'll have to face the consequences for it. But our job, and the Prophet and Imam's job, and our job,